Eric Clapton is an English guitarist, singer, and songwriter. He started playing guitar in some local bands in Surrey, where he grew up. In 1963, he joined the Yardbirds as part of the British blues explosion. He then moved on to John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers, formed Cream, then formed Blind Faith, then toured with Delaney and Bonnie, had one solo album, and then formed Derek and the Dominos for one album. After that, it's basically been his solo career. There are 22 solo albums in total as I record this. The next is anticipated. In fact, it's named, but release date to be announced at this point. His personal life has been complicated and difficult at times. He took some drugs. He drank a lot of alcohol. He made some unwise comments in support of Enoch Powell, who's don't know if he still is, an anti-immigrant right-wing activist. He, however, also has been involved in charitable causes and organisations and giving of various kinds. So I think it's fair to say that his life has been complicated. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was Eric's fifth solo studio album. I have had a copy of this for many years, but I've not actually played it that often because it's not one of my preferred Eric Clapton albums. There's other albums around the same time, particularly 461 Ocean Boulevard, that I absolutely adore, and Just One Night, which is a live album that came out a few years later than this. Both of those I've listened to endlessly. Not so much this one, but that's not to say it's one that I despise or dislike. I'm just less familiar with it. So I would describe this as being blues rock and soft rock, and it's quite mellow. And I kind of deliberately have those two things in here because not all of it is blues rock. So Eric Clapton was a blues player or a blues guitarist, very much coming through from the British blues explosion, the Yardbirds and people like that. And as he transitioned into his solo career, he started off by doing quite a lot of blues, and this album is still, I would say, two-thirds blues. And he transitioned into more of a kind of rock, soft rock kind of area. Still with a focus on his guitar playing. So by the time we got into the 80s, he's less blues focused, I would say. Definitely at this point, though, he's following in the footsteps of J.J. Cale, who is a lesser known blues guitarist than Eric Clapton, but who I highly rate, who has this kind of understated, rambling way of going about his music. It's the recordings are kind of understated, and the vocals of J.J. Cale are also very kind of almost mumbled in the way that he sings. It's very kind of, he's not pushing out, he's not projecting, it's the opposite of projecting, whatever that is. And Eric's gone down that route. In fact, the first time I heard J.J. Cale, I thought he sounds like Eric Clapton. But then I realised that it was the other way around. It was Eric Clapton, and I know that Eric Clapton had a huge respect for J.J. Cale. And this album, in fact, starts with a J.J. Cale song, which is Cocaine. So I'm going to talk about that now. It's an interesting track in some ways. So J.J. Cale wrote it, and in his version, it's somehow is more clearly anti-cocaine than in this version, which has often been taken ambiguously. Eric has been quite supportive of the idea that it is not celebrating cocaine, it is anti-cocaine, but he defends his way of approaching it by saying that it is better to have a track that can be taken as ambiguous and then is realised to be anti-cocaine, and that he thinks that that's more powerful. But my kind of counteract to that is, what about the people who don't realise that it's anti-cocaine and think, oh, here's a guy who's a big megastar who's supporting the idea of using cocaine. So I think there are problems potentially with that. He did later on, when he was doing it live, he didn't do it live often, apparently, but when he did, he often inserted or used the line, that dirty cocaine, and he wanted to make it clearer that it was anti. Anyway, let's move on. The next track on the album, I'm not going to go through all the tracks on the album. The next one is got to be talked about. because it's Wonderful Tonight, which was probably his most, is it his most well known hit? Possibly, although Layla by Derek and the Dominoes might be better known. It was a huge hit. It's a romantic soft rock song. It's really not blues at all. It does have, featuring guitar in it, but it's not in a blues style. It's a song that I have mixed feelings about. Sometimes I feel like it's just a bit too slushy, and sometimes I think, yeah, actually that's quite a nicely written song. I know there are some people who think it's a really romantic song and really embrace it. Next song, Lay Down Sally. So this is the third out of the first three songs, which are the songs that I really know best. And Lay Down Sally is a nice chuggy blues number. Yeah, it's a bit of a sing-along song for me, certainly. So those, as I said, are the three that I know best, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the album. There's a kind of mixture of slightly faster, and some kind of slower and more laid back. There's some more bluesy stuff. There's some more soft rocky stuff, and it's got a certain feel to it. It's all kind of quite laid back, even when it's faster. And that's reinforced by the understated way that he sings. The guitar playing is definitely got a certain kind of panache to it, a style, and it's about feel rather than speed or technical complexity. And so the name of the album is well named, Slowhand. It's come from, as a lot of people know, one of his nicknames was Slowhand because his emphasis wasn't on speed; it was on just getting a nice tone and a nice feel. And actually, in some ways, I think that makes his guitar playing very accessible, um, possibly copyable, but I think it's hard to actually get that kind of warm expression that he has in it. So the guitar does play a prominent part, as you might imagine, and there's extended instrumental passages with guitar playing in it, and I think I would say I probably enjoy those more. Not that I dislike his singing, but I do like his guitar playing. So overall, I'd say it was a strong album. It was very popular. I personally prefer the bluesier tracks to the soft rock tracks. I think some of the soft rock tracks feel a bit more inclined towards being kind of marketable and selling records. The last track, which is an instrumental, which is in that kind of style, Peaches and Cream, I'm not hugely convinced by it. I feel like it's a reworking of Wonderful Tonight. I mean, it's not the same tune, but it's very similar feel. One song that does stand out of the songs that I know less well here is Next Time You See Her, which is kind of the opposite of Wonderful Tonight, in that it's just menacing. But it's made even more so by his offhand delivery of it. I'm not going to spoil it, but just go and listen to it. There's a real bite to it. So overall, yeah, I like this album. I like this album a fair amount, just not quite as much as some of his other albums. And at this point, as always, I'd like to invite you to tell me what you think about this album. Yes, you. Please do so by, I'll use my finger again, comments. Please go in the comments down below there. And that's it from me for now.
There is nothing that is wrong in wanting you to stay here with me. I know you've got somewhere to go, but won't you make yourself at home and stay with me? And don't you ever leave